everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Lifting the Curtain. Today I'm with a very special guest and someone I'm sure you're going to be very interested to hear their story, Jean-Baptiste, or as I fondly know him as JB. JB is the COO of Thesleff Group, and he's someone from my past who I've worked super closely with and I've aspired to be. In this episode, we actually learn about JB's career, what it takes to be the pinnacle of service, and what it also takes to run massive groups and restaurants in central London. But also, some of you guys might recognize JB from TV. He was Gordon Ramsay's right-hand man on the F Word. So watch this episode. You're going to get to know JB better, and you're going to get to learn a lot of things. Good morning, everybody. On today's podcast, I'm here with a wonderful Jean-Baptiste, or as I know him, and everyone else knows him, JB. JB, great to have you on the show. You're currently working as COO at Thesleff Group, and great to have you here. Tell us about what you're currently doing.
First of all, thank you for having me. Great to see you, Andy.
Absolute pleasure.
I'm currently leading brand expansion and overseeing the daily operation of a group of premium restaurants in London. So it's called the Thesleff Group. And under the Thesleff Group, we have 7 different brands. One of them being Los Mochis City, which we're currently at. And actually, we're currently sitting in Luna, which is our omakase. It's called the Luna Omakase.
Lovely, lovely. And it's a beautiful restaurant. If you haven't been, you should definitely come by. So been open, what, year and a half now?
So Los Mochis City has opened pretty much just over a year ago. However, Luna Omakase just opened just a few months ago. So this is a 12-seater restaurant, and it's an omakase style restaurant. Omakase is a Japanese word, which means basically leave it to you. So it's basically a chef's table, but a Japanese way. And the whole idea is that you go through 12 courses, and the chef creates 12 courses in front of you, and those courses change all the time. So it's very much up to the chef to decide what he's going to give you.
Fantastic.
And we worked with top quality products, everything sustainable, and as well something very important, that we are fully gluten-free and nut-free, which is quite unusual.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for introducing the company. And it's a fantastic group of restaurants. If you haven't been, you should definitely go. I'd like to rewind a little bit. Me and you have known each other for like 20 years almost. And it feels surreal, really, to know you for that long. We actually go back from our Gordon Ramsay days.
Yeah,
so I was
true.
at the Savoy. You were at Claridge's as restaurant manager at the time. Tell us a little bit about the start of your career. I understand you were brought up in restaurants. Your parents had a 2-star Michelin, and your granddad was a massive inspiration for you, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Tell us more about that.
I mean, I grew up in Lyon, in France. Lyon being the capital of gastronomy, really. And as you said, my family had and has a restaurant in Lyon, and we were quite fortunate to have a Michelin-star restaurant. My grandfather was a legend in his own right. He was a Michelin-star chef. But my mom, my uncle, everybody, pretty much the whole family worked into the hospitality trade. So I really grew up within the hospitality. And from a very young age, I was just spending my times in kitchens in the restaurants. So I really crafted this passion for hospitality from quite a young age.
It was sort of like inherited and born into it, and sort of followed that on, right?
Yeah, very much so. I think it's pretty much in my hospitality might be in my blood, really. It's really in my DNA. It's something that I couldn't see doing something else than that, to be frank. I think for me it was just the only choice. Not a choice, because I do it because of passion, but I couldn't see myself doing something else than what I'm doing currently.
It's interesting you say that, because when I joined 2004 Gordon Ramsay Group, obviously you were a restaurant manager and someone I already inspired to be, and so I was always looking up, and you were zooted hospitality. You were zooted front of house. You were the guy, and I was like, I'm a waiter, quite junior in the company, and someone I want to look up to, and someone I want to be, and someone I want to grow into.
Yeah.
Just tell me, if your granddad was a chef, why did you not go down the chef route, and why was front of house more important for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I spend so much time in the kitchen, but I think I quickly realized that my passion wasn't really into the cooking. It wasn't really to be behind the stove. It was more to be within the restaurant and the front of house.
Can you cook?
I can cook. I can cook, and I love food, and I love eat, and I love trying different things. However, I knew that cooking will not be my my destiny, if I may. So running restaurant, being a restaurateur, was what I really wanted to be. And I think, the passion of being, looking after guests, the energy that you have in the room, the challenge that brings as well. It's all something that I found super exciting from a very early age, really.
So you completed your culinary university in Switzerland.
Correct.
You moved over to London in 2001. Correct. Your first job was head waiter at Coq d'Argent, which is just down the road, right?
Correct. Yeah, so I got graduated from l'École Hôtelière de Lausanne back in 2001. And then, at the time I had two options. One was to go to the US and work for very well-known chef Daniel Boulou. Or the other option was to stay in Europe, go to London, and work for Conrad. I've made a decision to stay in Europe just because I wanted to be closer to my family. And I started as a head waiter, exactly as you said, at Coq d'Argent, which is not far away from here. And it's at the time it was a Conrad restaurant. Then it became a D&D, and I think lately the D&D has changed to Evolve, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
My first job was head waiter at Coq d'Argent.
Well, that's an iconic restaurant in itself.
It is, you're right, absolutely.
As well.
Yeah.
So after you finished Coq d'Argent, tell me a bit about how you met Ramsay and Gordon and how that sort of portrayed that, because Ramsay was such an inspirational part of your career.
Gordon Ramsay was, without a doubt, the crucial moment in my career. I think he shaped the person I am now, professionally and personally, without a doubt. But actually, there's a bit of a funny story of how I met Gordon. So when I was working for Coq d'Argent, at the time that group had many restaurants over London, and one of them was as well Le Pont de la Tour in Tarbridge. Yeah. So I, after a year or something at Coq d'Argent, I got promoted to Le Pont de la Tour, to a floor manager role. And one night, being on the floor, Gordon came for dinner with his wife Tana. And believe it or not, I knew who was Gordon Ramsay, but I didn't really pay much attention to it. So I served him on that night. And because maybe I didn't really know, I didn't make a big fuss about it, I approached him in a very simple way, like anyone else. Yeah. Long story short, at the end of the meal, he called me over and he basically introduced himself and he said, "Listen, I'm Gordon." And he said, "I've been watching you all night. I think the way you move within the room is fantastic. Your manners and the way you welcome the guests and that kind of thing." He said, "I would love for you to come in to work for me."
So he poached you then?
Absolutely, yeah. So believe it or not, the next day, he said to me, "Can you come to Claridge's the next day for a coffee?" So I said, "Of course, yeah." So came to Claridge's the next day for a coffee, had an interview with the man himself, which is quite unusual because even at that time, then I realized how big Gordon was. And just like that, he just gave me a job. And he gave me straight away the restaurant manager's job at Claridge's, which I just came from Le Pont de la Tour being a junior floor manager to restaurant manager at Claridge's. So that was quite something, I have to say. And I had 2 fantastic years at the Claridge's. Fantastic restaurant, which you know well because you've managed that restaurant a couple of years later on. But that was a stunning restaurant, a Michelin-star, a very busy in an iconic hotel. I can't talk enough how great Gordon Ramsay at Claridge's was.
We could probably spend an hour talking about how amazing Claridge's was.
And all the story that we had as well, because there's plenty of stories, good stories.
But there's lots of interesting stories. I have lots of interesting stories about Claridge's as well, from my 5 years there. Super. It's a restaurant that's very close to both of our hearts.
Anyone who has worked at Claridge's, I think, keep it very close to their heart, right?
100%. So from Claridge's, what happened to you from there?
Well, the thing is, with my old story with Gordon was just a roller coaster because from getting this job at Claridge's out a bit of nowhere, and then quite quickly, just I think 6 months after being there, he just straight away said to me, "I'm opening in New York in a year's time. I want you to be my restaurant director there."
Phenomenal.
That was the job, right? His first venture in the US, in New York, and the goal was to open a couple of restaurants, and one of them the aim was to be a Michelin-star restaurant. So he said, listen, stick to what you're currently doing at the Claridge's, keep working hard, put your heads down, but roughly in a year's time, you'll go to the US.
And that was with Josh Emmett, right?
That was with Neil Ferguson to start with,
Yep.
who was at the time at the Connaughts, and then Josh came as well. Actually, Josh was Neil number 2.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
And true to his word, I have to say, fast forward a little bit 2 years later, I ended up finding myself in a plane on my way to the US with Neil, the head chef, and myself, and arriving in New York in the summer of 2006.
Amazing. And then from there, you went on to be group's general manager, right? So you used to pop into Claridge's when I ran it.
Yeah, correct. So I did 2 years in New York, extremely challenging time. I'll be honest with you. Running a restaurant in New York when you are French and as well London-based is extremely difficult. Hindsight, the mistake we've done, and I actually say that often now to anyone who asks me for advice, if you wish to open a restaurant in a different country than where your base is, get people from the country, from the city. Getting me and the chef from London to open in New York actually was a mistake.
Really?
Yeah. Well, we ended up being a very successful restaurant, and we got 2 Michelin-star after 9 months, which is actually one of the Michelin record. So great success, but it was bloody hard.
Yeah.
And I think because we didn't know the market, because we didn't know the rules and the law, we could have done with someone from the city explaining to us everything. I mean, you can imagine it's a bit like someone from New York now coming to London and started running a restaurant.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know the market, right? You don't know the city, you don't know the rules. And bear in mind as well that the restaurant we had in New York was within an hotel, and it was heavily unionized. So making our life extremely difficult. Unions are in the US are extremely strong, and they really dictate the way you run your restaurants.
Even from service charge management and all that sort of stuff, right?
Completely. And it's something that I know in this country we're not too used to, but in the US it's something, especially in New York City, it's something very common. And again, if you never worked with unions, stepping into an operation which is heavily unionized, in itself, it's a challenge. So 2 years over there, fantastic. I did spend some time in LA as well. I've opened his restaurant in Los Angeles. We did open as well in the Gordon Ramsay over there. And then I decided to go back to London. And then I moved as a group GM.
Fantastic. It was always great having you just no one trains you to run these big restaurants, right? When I took over Gordon Ramsay Claridge's, Gordon was like, there you go, mate, have the restaurant. He said, don't fuck it up, But having you walk in and actually help us and be like, you're doing a good job, and that support mechanism behind the scenes was really, really, great for us. So a bit I wanted to sort of talk about, you might recognize JB from a bit of a television as well. You worked with Gordon on the F Word, right? 2009-ish?
2000, no, earlier than that. Actually, I started the F Word exactly the same time that I started in New York. Mad. Again, Sam, I mean, this is why I'm telling you it's a roller coaster with Gordon, because everything happened so quickly. Not only got the Claridge's, then I got New York, and in the mix of that, I had a call from Gordon one day saying, listen, come and see me. At the time, the show was on Channel 4. He said, I'm with the Channel 4 guys, and we need to talk to you about something. I said, okay. Again, no idea. And then he said, basically, he said, listen, we need a bit of a Maitre D-esque kind of guy who's going to run the show, because the show was a restaurant. He said, basically, you're going to do exactly what you do at the Claridge's, but that's going to be filmed. And on top of that, we will ask you a few things. You're going to have to do a few little things. Are you okay with it? I'm saying, okay, great. But then he said, you keep your job in Claridge's, you keep your job in New York, and you do everything with that. So I end up, crazy as it sounds, I was flying back to the US, to London every 2 weeks to do the show. So I was going to New York, doing whatever I had to do, fly back to London, do the TV show for a few days, back to London, and then because every season had maybe 10 or 12 episodes. So it was quite something.
It's a chaotic schedule, especially running a restaurant on the side as well.
He was mad. And I said, are you sure? You could get someone else. And he said, no, I just want you. I think at the time I just had the right profile. He needed someone, very front of house orientated. I think let's be honest, the French thing might have helped a little bit. He used to call me my French fighter pilot. And I was a bit of his sidekick, to be frank. It was a bit comical, to be frank, at some point, because it was a bit like we were kind of keep joking between each other. We were not taking ourselves seriously. Let's put it that way. Gordon is a very fun guy to be with, actually. When you know him, you realize he's actually a very funny guy.
But on the persona of it all, and when you're actually filming, right, and you've got all the celebrities there, and you've got Gordon in the kitchen, and everything's sort of going off, that must be so interesting just to be stood there and going, bring on, what's it like?
I mean, I've seen so much stuff, which is great, and I'm very thankful for it, because I don't think so I would have ever been able to see what I've witnesses. But the good thing is that I've seen as well how Gordon is for TV, because Gordon was very much someone that he will switch on to his TV charisma profile, and then as soon as the TV was off, then he switched to the Gordon that I know, that you know as well, that many people know, actually, which is a very humble, down to earth, and actually this whole F word and this aggressivity and this craziness is actually not that much when he's off camera. I think he really created that persona, for the TV shows.
It's funny because I get people ask me what it was like to work with Gordon. I worked with him for like 7 years, and I always say he was my best boss ever.
Yeah, of course.
He leaves you, if you do a good job for Gordon, he leaves you alone. He lets you grow your restaurant. He lets you manage your staff, and all he does is come in and support. When he comes into the restaurant, it's really interesting and really fun because the guests love to see him, and guests act completely different to when he's in a restaurant to when he's not in a restaurant.
Very much.
And I always have lots of fun when he walked through Claridge's and just walk through, all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, Gordon's in the restaurant. You could feel it.
Yeah, I could feel it.
And you're like, Gordon's here now. Yeah. And before you know it, you're like getting loads of books and you're getting them to sign them for the guests, and guests won't leave the table, and you've got to get the relay back, and you're like, ah.
But Andy, when you and I worked for Gordon, because actually if you think about it now, it's nearly 20 odd years ago. So it was quite some time. Gordon at the time was really at the top of his game within the London restaurants. Not saying he's not anymore. Of course, he's still at the top of his game, but I think in a very different way. Currently now, he's a TV star. He has 80 or 100 restaurants around the world. When you and I used to work for Gordon, he didn't have that many restaurants around the world. Well, New York was his first one. Yeah. But more importantly, he had some of the top restaurants in the top hotels in London. If you remember, Claridge's, Connaught, Berkeley, the Savoy.
Yep.
And the people who was working for him at the time are all currently now some of the best chefs in the country. So we're talking about Jason Atherton. We're talking about Claire Smith. Talking about Angela Hartnett. We're talking about
Mark
Sargent, Marcus Waring. We're talking about Josh Emmett, who's doing extremely well as well in New Zealand. So we were working with those people. I mean, this was a Champions League, right?
Yeah.
We were right there. I mean, if you think about it. And this is why I really cherish this time with Gordon, because he was really exceptional at the time.
And as an advocate for front of house as well, got you, myself, Simon King, Mike West, the pillars of front of house
Jean-Philippe,
as well.
You had Jean-Claude. I mean, all really proper legends for what they've done. So it was really a great time to be with Gordon. This all 2006, 2007, 2008, and then obviously I think things changed a little bit. But it was such a great time.
I think we were privileged. I mean, I remember standing in the Savoy, and then I was a head waiter, and we were opening this new restaurant called Maze. Yes. And I was just like, wow, and the opportunities that came from that.
Yeah.
And then Angela moved away, and Connaught was gone, and she opened up her own restaurant as well, Murano, it was superb. It was such a fun time, and London was very different then. And you're so right to reminisce about that sort of time. We didn't have, I think we just opened a pub called the Devonshire.
Yeah, true.
And the Narrow wasn't even open, but it only just opened. True. So that fun time of working for Gordon when he was so not saying so small, but the company was so small. Yeah. Everyone knew each other. It felt like a real family. Correct. It was really, really cool, and we all supported each other. Very, very fond memories of that. Very fond memories. So moving on from Ramsay days, you then went to take on some massive roles, actually. So you worked D&D, Big Easy, then D&D again, Park Chinois, where we both kind of know as well. What was it like leaving Ramsey and going into a bit more of a corporate world from service to more corporate? What was it like for you?
Well, I mean, super interesting. I think with Ramsey, I was very much guest focused, service. And then as soon as you move to a more operational role, such as an ops director, an MD or CEO, then obviously the approach is slightly different. It's a more holistic approach. There's a 360-degree approach where you not just focus on one thing, but then you need to be able to, you have your fingers in many pies, right? From the strategy point of view to the finance, to the HR, to the marketing. And I think the challenge is to be able to keep the energy, keep the passion, and trying to get all the various bits together to make it a success. I've witnessed many people who kind of struggle with that transitions because it can be a tough one.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was fortunate enough to always have great mentors as well. Always people working with me who were very inspirational to me, which I learned a lot from. And I think, you know, little by little, you just learn and step by step, and then you become who you are now.
Question for you, and I know the answer what I would do because I do it myself. I walk through a restaurant, you know, I'm heading into a meeting or I'm an operations guy, and I walk past the restaurant at a table and I know it needs clearing. I'll still clear the table because it's ingrained in me. And ultimately what I like to remember is where we came from. You know, I came from being a waiter and make it and how guests feel. I don't think as an operator who's done so much service like yourself ever forgets that.
I don't think so. You can't. I think you can. I think it's in your DNA. You know, you're right by saying that. The attention to details. You know, we tend to be a bit OCD, right? We are, sadly. It's kind of annoying, but we are.
Straightening stuff all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, often people ask me, what is service for you? What is a good service? And I always say the same answer. A good service is a service that you don't notice. Why? Is because if you actually haven't noticed the service, it means that we have anticipated your needs. It means that everything was done in a way that you didn't have to ask for anything, right?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
if you obviously if there is no service and you keep asking for service, it's disgusting, right? But if you overserve, it's actually not nice.
Yeah.
But if you just find it right by reading your guests, reading the room, and just knowing exactly what to do at the right time, that is service. Is when you don't feel it.
Exactly.
You feel, oh my God, that's service, right? And that's pretty much what I try to teach and to explain to my teams every day. This is how to make it work.
I think people don't give enough credit to service, if I can be honest. You know, I love being a waiter. It was probably one of my funnest times. If you strip back what our jobs are fundamentally, about front of house and making people feel good is such an art. And there's not many people who can do that. You're obviously top of the game who can do that. And you teach your current people to do that. So as we grow older, for me, hospitality becomes more and more appealing to the next generation coming in. Is that something you're finding in your restaurant group?
Yeah, 100%. As we know, it has first and foremost to be a career and not a job. This is the key, right? Yeah. And I think hospitality, what is key is that you can learn how to serve, you can learn how to carry a tray, you can learn how to set up a table. What you can't learn is to be a nice person, to have empathy, to be humble. And that is the key of what I think a good waiter is going to be. And to be honest, I recruit on those bases. I actually say quite often, there's a bit of a trick, I don't know if you heard about it, is to do an interview. And when you do your interview, you leave on the floor a piece of paper, just next to the door, as soon as you enter the room. Whoever pick the paper on the floor and give it back to you, you can give him the job. Yeah. Whoever do not pick the paper on the floor, you know already that potentially is not the right candidate. The reason for it is because it's about caring. It's about eyes to details, and it's about as well, if you arrive to a space and you see a piece of paper on the floor and you pick it up, you know that waiter or that future manager will do exactly the same in your restaurant. If you see a napkin on the floor, you will pick it up. If you see something, you will do it. Yeah. And that is the mindset that I'm trying to put into people's mind really when we're getting people on board.
So when you're recruiting and bringing the next generation through, that's key. It's really interesting to know that sort of when you're bringing people through, trying to grow people, bring on the next level. There's been a bit of a hole in hospitality since sort of COVID and Brexit.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like we owe it to the next generation to help bring them through. How are you currently finding the recruitment in London in this current day and age?
Tough.
Stuff?
Yeah, it's difficult. I think Brexit was the game changer. Before we used to have Spanish, Italian, you name it, coming to the UK, extremely talented and skilled already. The only reason they were coming to London is because they wanted to learn English, right?
Yeah.
So, but they knew already what they were doing. We were very blessed. Now, that's not the case anymore because you can't do that. So it's challenging. Nevertheless, I think, first of all, there is a huge pool of talents within the UK market. I think our job is to praise and raise the awareness of, how good it could be to have a great career in the hospitality industry. And I think being a waiter, there is nothing wrong with that. We've discussed earlier on that I was saying, what's the difference between being a waiter or a plumber? Actually, I would rather prefer to be a waiter. And I think if you take this as a career and not a job, then you have a clear career path of what can be the next couple of years. And from a waiter, you move to a maitre d', and then you move to a floor manager, and then you move to a restaurant manager, and then one day you become a GM. And then you can be extremely successful, right?
And actually, the career paths are actually laid out quite quickly for you if you want to grow.
I think you can really. I think our trade, you can actually grow fairly quickly compared to other trade. However, there's a bit of a danger here because lately we've seen too many people growing too fast, too quickly.
Yes.
I've seen so many GMs those days who they became GM in a lapse of 2 to 3 years, which I find it a bit odd because I don't want to sound a bit old and boring, but equally to be a GM at our time, it has taken years and years and years, right? I know things change, and I know we're in a different world, but I do still think that the basics are very important. I think going step by step is still key for your success. And I always say the same: don't try to go fast too quickly because you will get burned at the top. Take your time, learn the basic. The basics are super important.
It's funny you say that because the two things that stand out in my career was until I was actually happy with myself being a waiter, I couldn't actually give good service. So when I first got into the industry, I kind of felt like, I'm a waiter, and it wasn't until I became happy that I was a waiter, and then I threw myself 100% in and said, you know what, I'm bloody good at this, and I'm gonna really sort of push it, and I'm gonna want to become you, and I want to become Simon King, and I was inspired to grow through that, and I think that's such an important message. And then your other message, what I find going into consultancies at the moment is that the GM's been over promoted and they don't have the skills or the tools, and so I've come in almost like an umbrella to help support those GMs and help them grow into their positions. But you're right, there's such a gap in that market at the moment, and I feel they need a lot of support. I work very closely with a mental health charity called Burnt Chef Project, and burnout and over promotion and giving people too much pressure when they're not ready for it is an actual thing in our industry.
I think it's a real problem right now, even more since Brexit. Simply because we don't have those resources, we have over promoted a lot of people. But I think as well there's a bit of I don't know what you think about it, but there's a bit of this dilemma about the learning part. There's two schools. You can study and learn hospitality and get the basic right. And as well, there's the other path where you don't specifically learn about it, and you just little by little learn. You do it yourself. I don't think so there's any right and wrong, because I've seen many examples. Well, I am an example where I went to school, I studied it, I learned my basic and the classics, and I end up being who I am. But equally, I know plenty of very successful people who haven't done that and are still extremely successful in their own right. So I don't know what's your view on it, but I don't think so, because I know as well you are a part of the young waiter and chef competition, right? So you must be a strong advocate of basic learning techniques. If not, you were not supporting such a cause.
It's funny you say that because, I used to fall asleep and wake up with the ink of the menu description on the side of my face. I go to bed and I'm trying to learn what was in the scallops because I know I'm going to take shit for it the next day from my managers because I'm going to stand in a briefing and I'm going to be like, you don't know what's in the scallop dish. So, you used to fall asleep, learning my menu, be on the bus, learning my menu. Obviously, we didn't have phones back in that day, so I think that's quite a big part of it. But I'm a massive advocate for, supporting youth, bringing the next generation through, of hospitality professionals. You're right, I work with young chef, young waiter, young mixologist a lot worldwide now. But they need support. My phone is turned on 24/7 for anyone who has a question, anyone who wants to sort of like have a bit of advice. I'll meet anyone for a coffee and say, Andy, what shall I do? And my advice is what you just said. Take your time, grow into the role. It's so much better. If you get over promoted, you underachieve. Grow your role, get to know your role, do it properly, and don't run before you can walk. Because running a massive restaurant with 150 staff, with a 17 million pound operation, with no training is ridiculous. Yeah. That's what used to happen. Yeah. That's what's happened. So
I think some people tend to forget how complex running a restaurant can be. If I take the example of the restaurant we're currently in, Los Mochis City, it's a 250 employee restaurant. It's a restaurant we do well above the 20 million pound net a year. The general manager of this restaurant cannot just be another promoted wannabe who just decided to, it doesn't work that way. It's a proper job.
Well, it's funny, if you're going to manage a bank, if you're going to be a director of a bank with 250 employees and
It's exactly the same. I give exactly the same example. So why would you do something different in the restaurant industry? Simply because the perception is just that it's a restaurant, there's going to be have fun and whatever. No, actually running restaurants is so complex. Health and safety, compliance. I mean, just those days, just to run a kitchen, the complexity of it, it's insane.
100%.
Right? It's actually easier to open a bar than to open a restaurant because as soon as you do the kitchen and you deal with food, another layer of complexity goes with that. And I think there's, again, a misperception within the UK about how complex it is to run a restaurant and how difficult it can be.
So we've spoken about the problem of recruitment and being an issue in this current day. We were quite lucky when we ran restaurants. I feel like, yes, there was a recession in 2008, but I kind of felt like I ran Claridge's, you ran Claridge's in a time when not that money wasn't a problem, but back then it was a bit more austerity and people seemed to have a lot more cash and a lot more free disposable income and very, very lavish. Are you finding that now? I actually think it's potentially the opposite at the moment. I don't know how you feel about
I think the economy is difficult, right? The new budget hasn't really helped us. The new government is as well. Well, we're not going to go into politics, right? Let's not do politics. But yeah, I think the economy is difficult, without doubt. And I think if you want to open a successful restaurant those days, there are a few key elements that you need to stick to. I think the first one is to still being agile, relevant, understanding your market and your customers. I think the concept it's key. I've seen so many people not succeeding simply because the initial concept wasn't put well together. They had an idea, but they didn't think it through. So the concept is key. People, it's paramount. I think what does the success of a restaurant, once the concept is established, is the people. It's all about the people, right? We are in the people game. And then I would say, thirdly, potentially the location. I say potentially because it's not always true. Great location would definitely help. However, I've seen in the past extremely successful restaurants where the locations were not great. Actually, funny enough, I went to a restaurant last week called River Cafe. Yeah. We all know River Cafe, right? It's an odd location. It's far away. It's hard to get into. Yes, it's by the river, but it's another location. It was absolutely jam-packed. It was on a Wednesday lunch last week. The restaurant was packed. It's a London institution. But what I find it quite funny as well on that day is that it is what it is. It's quite pricey, as we know, but it's all about the quality of the ingredients and the simplicity of the dishes. But I was actually mainly observing the service. And what I realized is that the service was extremely laid back and easygoing. And as well, I was thinking, they don't give a cookie about serve by the right, serve by the left, take a tray to remove your glasses, serve the ladies first. They just completely ignore all of that. But equally, I don't think so anybody care about it.
Yeah.
And so this is why I'm saying very often, there's nothing wrong and right. Those restaurants work extremely well that way, where you don't really need to know your basic, and as far as you're a nice person and you deliver the food, everything is okay. But equally, there are some other restaurants and some other a clientele who will want this more technical, formal part of it, which will be served by the right, clear by the left. If you take a glasses, just take a tray and that kind of things. But it actually really struck me that on that specific restaurant, it was just like, I could see it. And then I thought, you know what? That's the world we live in those days. Service is not black and white. It's actually, it is whatever you think is right for your own concept. For that specific concept, it's about getting the food on the table, be nice, and that's it.
So if you've got any words that's going to inspire the next generation to come into hospitality, and you're talking to, an 18-year-old at this moment in time who's juggling with, shall I go hospitality or shall I become a delivery driver? What's Jean-Baptiste, what's JB's word of advice?
Without a doubt, go to hospitality. I mean, it's a people game. First of all, first and foremost, you have to like people, right? You cannot not liking people and go to this game, because we are dealing with people all the time. I often say as well, we are in the entertainment sector, no more hospitality. Why I'm saying that is because those days people are going to a restaurant to be entertained, right?
Yeah.
I think the next new generation needs to understand that. And if you're passionate, if you're humble, if you're patient, and if you have a drive, as we said earlier on, I mean, there is absolutely no reason that you cannot be successful within this trade. And again, if you take it as a career, not as a job. I'm a massive advocate, as you are, to push young people, to do this job. Currently, within the Thesleff Group, as I said, we have roughly 500 employees. We have some great talent. One of the hardest things actually is talent retention, because bringing the talents is one thing, and you can as well, because currently for the group I'm running, we have great brands. They are exciting, they are fun, they are vibrant, they are new. So it's not too hard to attract. And as well, we've got some very good people within the organization. So people look them up to. But more importantly is how you keep them, right?
100%.
And to keep them is to look after them, making sure they have a career path, making sure the working conditions are great, making sure we pay very competitively, making sure that, one of the examples, we are the only UK company in the hospitality at restaurant groups who provide full healthcare for absolutely private healthcare for absolutely everyone, from the busboy, I mean the runners, to the top, past probation, which is unheard of, which cost us substantial amount of money, which we could put back in our profit. But the reason we've done that as well is because we care.
Well, we say, it costs you equally as much to re-employ someone. It can cost you more.
Way more.
Way more. Retention is key, right? So
retention.
Good to hear. Good to hear. So you want a job? Hit JB up, message me, and I'll connect you, and off we go, right?
Definitely, for sure.
Perfect. For sure. So JB, as COO of Thesleff Group, tell me a little bit more about Thesleff Group, because it's quite a new group up and coming in London, and definitely interesting to know what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Thesleff Group, currently we have 7 brands. So we have 2 Los Mochis, one in the city, which we currently are in, and one in Notting Hill, which was the first one. So Los Mochis, it's a Japanese-Mexican concept. We are 100% gluten-free and nut-free. We as well operate and own a restaurant in Knightsbridge called Sale e Pepe, which is a bit of an Italian institution. It's been there for 50 years. We own as well a great late cocktail bar in Notting Hill called Viarente 87. And last year we've reached the 50 best list. So we are extremely thrilled about that. We equally have 2 omakasses. So one is called Luna, and we're currently sitting in Luna. So Luna, it's a restaurant within a restaurant. Luna, it's a 12-seater omakase within the Los Mochis city. And we as well have another omakase called Juno, which is a 6-seater omakase, and that sits within the Los Mochis Notting Hill. So again, it's a restaurant within a restaurant. And finally, we have a dark kitchen brand called Bad Boy Burrito that we only do on deliver. And we offer premium burritos and sushi burritos.
That must be a really interesting part of your business.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and I think this has a great potentials. So all together, it's 7 brands, and we are about to open 2 new restaurants by the end of this year.
Wow, in London or?
In London, yes. So if you think about it, less than 4 years ago, we had 1 restaurant in Notting Hill called Los Mochis, and we had 45 employees. Fast forward 3 years ago, 3 years later, we have roughly 500 employees, 7 brands, about to open 2 new restaurants in the UK. Actively looking to open a restaurant in the US. We are actually very close to sign deals in Miami and Beverly Hills. So, it's been an exciting journey, I have to say.
Fantastic.
And, from a startup, which we're not a startup anymore, but it was so interesting to see the journey for having such a small restaurant and a small team to become what we are now.
And the moving parts of that must make your job more complex as you get bigger and more, more interesting as well.
Yeah, no, very much so. I have to say, it is a super exciting and interesting jobs. I'm fortunate to have as well fantastic people that I work with. We are in the people games, as we know. It's all about people, right? So we are blessed, lovely people, and I think the journey has been tough and exciting, but I think the best is to come. The 2 new openings this year will be a great addition to the groups, and I'm just really looking forward to have them open as soon as possible.
So yourself and Marcus are the driving force behind,
of course, yeah. So
all of this.
Marcus Thesleff is the owner and CEO of the company. I'm the CEO. And as we're saying at the beginning, my role is really to lead the brand expansions and to oversee the day-to-day of the operations. That's pretty much what I do.
What's interesting about Los Mochis City is you have Luna inside, so it's a restaurant within a restaurant,
Correct.
Right? And we're lucky enough to be sitting here now, and it's a privilege to be filming here. But I remember the opening of Los Mochis City. And seeing it grow so quickly and how fast, it's almost like a city institution now. It's busy here.
Well, I'm glad you say that, and that's very kind. Listen, we took the city by storm. This is literally, right? This is a 14,000 square feet restaurant. We have nearly a 4,000 square feet terrace, which is with a fully retractable roof, so we can use all year long. But as you say, it feels like we've been here for quite some time, but actually we haven't.
Do you know what I love about this restaurant? And we've all done openings in the past, and we've done openings on a shoestring sometimes in the past. And what I try to get my operators and people I work with to do is make that initial investment at the start. Spend the extra money at the start. We were sat and had breakfast on your terrace this morning, and it's set up, like you just said, all year round.
Yeah.
You can use it. Yes, it might have cost maybe an extra X amount of money at the start, but doing that level of investment at the start, is that a bit of a normal for your group? So
Listen,
properly from the start.
Without a doubt. I think, first of all, everything comes with the vision. Once we've got the vision, then the concept come into place. But I think you're right. Doing the right things from the beginning will definitely help you to succeed in the long term. I have to say, Los Mochis City, even though it is the largest opening I've ever done, I've never opened such a large restaurant before. Even with my time with Gordon and D&D, I've never opened such a large operation. Funny enough, it's been the easiest, smoothest opening that I've ever done.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it must have been such a leap of faith for Marcus to go from one restaurant in Notting Hill to a massive restaurant in the city.
Listen,
must be make or break, man.
Yeah, and listen, all to his credit, because he's the vision behind the brand. You know, quite frankly, I didn't come with the idea. I'm here now to help him and support him and to run the company with him. However, the vision, he had that vision. So, respect for that. And yes, you're right. I mean, going from a fairly smallish restaurant in Notting Hill to this beast. Normally, people tend to do the reverse, right?
Yeah.
First, they open a large restaurant and open a smaller. We did the different way. We went from small to massive. But again, with the right team, with the right support, you can achieve whatever you can.
And obviously, going into 2025, there was a little bit of nervousness amongst quite a lot of restaurateurs. We're already like halfway through 2025, and I haven't felt that it's been too bad. We've had minimum wage increase, we've had national insurance go up. How are you finding 2025, and are you scared for anything going forward?
Scared? No, never scared. If you're scared, then you're done, right? You can't be scared. I think Q1 of 2025 has been slightly better than I thought.
Oh, that's great to hear.
To be honest with you. So can't complain. Now Q2 started with the new budget. Means national minimum wage has increased, the NI has increased, the business rate has decreased, and so on. Increased. So April has been an interesting month, right? It's been challenging, and all the people I've been speaking with in the trade are pretty much saying the same. I do think the rest of 2025 will be okay. Will be fine, but for sure the market now, there's space for people who really understand what they're doing. I don't think so the average will make it. I think you really need to the costs, the rising cost of operating a business, it's so high now that you really need to understand what you're doing. The key of all is your top line. Without top line, you're dead. Right?
Yeah, of course.
You can cut costs, you can maximize whatever you want to maximize. If you don't have your top line, you're dead. So what we do here at the Thesleff Group, and for all my restaurants, is we focus a lot on our top line.
So coming back onto that, obviously the wages being the biggest increase of cost and expenditure in restaurants at the moment. It's kind of twofold of that, because the more you pay people, the more attractive the job becomes and the less staff retention you need, and you get better employees. And then as a whole, hospitality grows because it becomes more of a profession and people actually get paid properly.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I remember, we would get, maybe we'd lose our trunk, for example, if we didn't do something right. Nowadays that can't happen.
No chance.
You've got no chance of that happening, which is really, really encouraging. And there's lots of positives come out of a minimum wage increase. And there's also obviously negatives, but as long as you write a budget and set expectations fine, going forward, it shouldn't be too much of an issue.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, it's back to what I was saying earlier on. It's your top line. The only way to pay very well your staff and to look after everyone and so on, that goes without saying. If you don't have the sales, you can't do it, right? So I think investing to gain, it's super important. I think too many people are scared to invest. I will see completely the different way. I will actually over-invest in top people rather than trying to cut or think little by getting someone a bit cheap just because I think I'm going to make some saving. Because the reality is that those guys that you pay above market rates will get you what you need, which is your top line.
And those staff will care, that they want to see the average spend grow.
It's a bit like in a football team. If you want the best, well, you go for the best. And the best are expensive.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. If you want the best GM, chefs, if you want the best, you have to pay them. And you have to pay them most of the time very good salaries.
100%.
That's just the way it works. And as well, very important is to always get people which you believe are better than you are. That's something I've learned from other people, and it's true, I really believe so. If you're scared to surround yourself by people more talented than you are, then you're done. the key of the success, and I honestly think that most very successful people, not just in the hospitality industry, in any trade, are the people who are smart enough to understand that what you're good at and what you're capable of. Anything else, get someone who do it better than you do. Get that person. Don't be scared that, or forget about your ego and whatever, but then get that person, because that person will help you to succeed and to go where you are.
I mean, that's top advice. That's I'm not a sommelier. I'm not very good at selling wine.
Yeah.
So why would I try when I can get someone professional to do that, for example? So, and if the more we pay people, the more they care, and the more that they can grow your average spend per head, the more that your guests, when they leave, they're going to leave a good review. And, the whole thing's a circle, right? And they come back and they return, or they go to Notting Hill.
It's a catch-22, 100%.
So.
And, within the team, I've always said to the guys as well, every position you have and the person underneath, that person has to think that they want their jobs. You want the job of the people above you. So if you're an AGM, you want to be a GM. If you're a GM, you want to be an ops director. If you're an ops director, you want to be a CEO. And that's the way it should be, right? You
100%.
have to think like that. And yes, and investing in those people, they will bring you the sales, as you said. They will make the difference to your business, without a doubt.
So JB, we've spoken about your benefits of any staff and any employees coming into Thesleff Group.
Yeah.
Also understand you do a lot of work with charity as well.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we do a lot with charity, and this is something which is very close to our heart. First and foremost, we worked with the Felix Project. So basically, every meal we served, we give a meal away.
Wow.
Yeah. So last year, we have given away hundreds of thousands to the Felix Project, which is really a cause that we are supporting actively.
So every cover that Los Nutrios and the group do,
correct.
give a meal to the Felix Project.
The equivalent of a meal away, whatever that value is. And every year we do a big celebration because of it. Actually, the next one will be this June, where we have the Felix Projects coming to our restaurant, and we hand over a check with whatever the value of it. So last year was... I think couple of hundred of thousands, giving away just for that. We worked as well with Magic Breakfast. So Magic Breakfast is a charity which is actually very close to my heart as well. It's for kids. It's all the kids who can't have a breakfast in the morning, we support with them. So basically we donate £1 for each cover to Magic Breakfast for the kids to be able to get their breakfast in the morning. And finally, we are working with Street Smart. Everybody knows Street Smart, and this is for the homeless, and that's mainly an activity that we do during winter. So all in all, we believe that doing good business and it's important, but giving away is as important as. End of the day, we need to look after each other, and I think we need to look after people, and those charities, especially when you are in a position like we are, which is touch wood, successful, profitable, making enough money. I think giving away a little bit of that, it's very important.
Yeah, and also, goodwill and generosity can never be a bad thing, right?
I mean, listen, I always said that money, as well as we providing the private healthcare, it's all money who comes straight down off our bottom line. So it's simple as that. Without it, we'll be way more profitable. However, as a human being, and for our own, what we believe in, we believe we're doing the right things by doing that.
Well, fantastic! What a project! So get on down and support Los Nutrios and have a, help all the charities as well.
Yeah,
so thank you, JB. How can anyone watching this learn more about you or connect with you? How can we get hold of you?
Well, first, thank you for having me. I think we had a great chat, and it's so nice to catch up as well. I think you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok. You can go on my personal LinkedIn pages. You can go on the Thesleff Group website as well, where you will get all the restaurant and all the brands that we're currently having. I think that's quite a lot already.
Yeah, fantastic. Connect to him because he's really, really, really vital. You can connect with me on my Instagram, Andy_Downton, or on TikTok under Burnt Chocolate.
Thank you.
Pleasure.